Are you looking for a new whiskey adventure? Then climb in and buckle up. Get ready for one hell of a ride on the Whiskey Trip podcast with your host, Big Chief. Join in as he and his guests explore whiskey and dive into whiskey stories from around the world. Now here's your host, Big Chief.
Folks, you know, here on the Whiskey Trip, we celebrate more than just the pour in our glass. We celebrate heritage, tradition, and the stories that make this country what it is. That's why I'm proud to tell you about our friends at the Heritage Flag Company. These aren't just flags, they're handcrafted works of art built from whiskey and bourbon barrels that once held the spirit we all love. Every cut, every nail, every burn mark tells a story of patience and craftsmanship. Just like the whiskey we sip, these flags are bold, timeless, and full of character. Whether you hang one in your home bar, your man cave, or gift it to a veteran or first responder, a heritage flag isn't just decor. It's a statement. It says you believe in freedom, tradition, and the legacy we pass down. So saddle up, whiskey family, and head over to theheritageflag.com. Use code WhiskeyTrip10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Let them know Big Chief sent you. Because just like your favorite pour, the Heritage Flag Company is made to be shared, honored, and remembered. Now let's get on to the show.
Hey, it's old Big Chief, and yeah, you're taking another ride on a whiskey trip, baby. And you can see who I got with me. I got old Little Feather with me, my baby brother. And this is the last show of 2025, and I couldn't think of a better man, a better guest to have on the show with me to announce my whiskey of the year this year. And I always do a distillery of the year, and I'm going to have a distillery of the year this year as well. But tonight, Mitch, we're going to drink through 5 whiskeys that I picked out throughout the year. And Miss Viv, my wife, which I got to say thank you so much, Viv, for being supportive this year and helping me grow the whiskey trip. Really can't do it without you. So I got that out of the way, Mitch. You know, I always miss that, is to thank Viv. Mm-hmm. But we got 5 whiskeys that I picked out throughout the year. Viv, she numbered them 1 through 5, and she put the numbers on the bottom of the bottles. I haven't seen them. I don't know which one's which in here in these mason jars, but we're going to find out. So we're going to drink 3 on the first half and 2 on the second half. And listeners, stick with me throughout the show, and I'll talk about these other bottles over here and this other swag that I got over here. But this is my final giveaway of 2025. Yes, there's 2 glasses over there, and there's a decanter from Distillery Products with the Whiskey Trip logo. You can see my challenge coin up there, a Bourbon Bullshitter t-shirt, a flag from the Heritage Flag Company, one of my other sponsors, and then my coin is made by Guardian Coins. You know, I am really blessed with these sponsors that I have, and then I have 5 bottles of whiskey up there for you. The decanter's not going to be full of whiskey when you get it. Me and old Little Feather here will probably drink that. As a matter of fact, we have sipped on some of that whiskey. That's the bottle of Old Forester from Sam's Package Store. If you don't know Sam's Package Store in Beaumont, Texas, stop by and see them. They got some great prices. They're fair. They're not dishonest or anything. They're not going to try to rake you over the coals for a bottle. But go in there and see them. Buy a bottle of that Old Fo if it's around. I'm telling you, it's amazing. But Mitch, we're going to talk about this first whiskey right here. We'll sip on a little bit, nose it. And then I know you made up some questions for me to kind of are my year in review. And I mean, I've been thinking about this episode forever.
Yeah.
So you want to tell everybody how you got the nickname Little Feather?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. For some of the listeners that knew me back in the day, if you notice, I've grown out my hair. This is a throwback from 1992, 1993. So some of you recognize it. Maybe not this, but you recognize the hair. But Little Feather, I mentioned it once, and the name stuck. And Big Chief's went around a lot of times, and he said, hey, introduce himself, and the first thing he would do was very, very polite. He'd go, hey, this is my baby brother. And I'm like, hey, baby brother. So I came up with Little Feather. I think I was in his pool one evening, and a lot of folks came over that he knew, and I was like, hey, I'm Little Feather, and it stuck from there. And really, I kind of liken it to Dustin Hoffman movie, because I'm not Native American. I know his father is, but my heritage is not Native American at all. In fact, it's kind of like that Dustin Hoffman movie, Little Big Man, where he has some guy, totally white guy from a family, a normal family, and he gets kidnapped, I believe, and he gets stuck with the Native Americans, and they raise him. But we were talking about it earlier. One of the listeners that went to high school and remembers this when it was really big, he asked that question. He goes, why Little Feather? And I said, well, his name is Big Chief. And I happen to, there can't be too many chiefs in a tribe, or it fails to be a tribe. And I'm one of the few in the tribe, one of the warriors, the honored warriors in this tribe. I do a lot, or I try to do a lot. In fact, we're going to be going around to some other distilleries for the whiskey trip, and hitting some that are here in Georgia, and looking at those and talking to those people. And I get out there with those cards and pass them out. So you listeners, if you've got that card and you've already subscribed, pass that card on to somebody else. It's just, you're just wearing it out in your pocket, but pass that on and say, hey, you've got to watch this. All right. Cause I've learned a lot. I've started collecting a lot, and I find myself sipping more and more. And I think as we go through this show tonight, you're going to find that my taste is a little bit different than Big Chief's. But anyway, without any further ado, that's where I came with the Little Feather.
I would say, you talked about a tribe, and I know there's a whiskey tribe out there, but Big Chief's tribe is, to me, it's something. I got a very large group of friends in the whiskey community, and if you've taken a ride on a whiskey trip, if you've hung out with me, you really have supported me. And then, this year I got to come out with that coin. It's a big giant arrowhead with a whiskey trip logo and stuff. And I've said there's 3 ways you get that coin. Either I put it in your hand, and that's a sign of true respect from a military veteran. Mm-hmm. And I got coin number 1. They're numbered. The person that has coin number 2 is Little Feather. And that means if you get one of those coins from me, that means you're one of my warriors. That means you're going to go out there and do battle for me, that you're going to help me out, like Mitch said. And I can't thank people enough for that. So, but we're here to drink whiskey. This is a whiskey podcast, and we got number 1. Oh, Miss Viv numbered it. So let's nose this real fast, Mitch.
Okay.
It's rich, right?
Yeah.
Is it? It's strong to you?
Yeah.
I get a lot of caramel in this. I'm going to say that a lot throughout this episode. Very, very rich. And the whiskeys I got here, I'll name out the distilleries or the NDP. There's one non-producing distillery up there. I have Burnt Church right here with it's got a 4-grain, I believe. Rice whiskey. This is from War Trail. I just had them on. That's a 4-grain as well. Ponfay out of Pennsylvania. That's a rye whiskey. This right here is a rye bourbon out of 1845. I know you've really wanted to try this, which was a shocker to me. And then I got Barrel Craft Spirits, batch 37. That's the whiskeys we're going to be trying here today. I'm very excited about this. And you'll notice that 4 of these are craft distilleries across America. 2 Texas distilleries, but they're so far apart. 1845's up in Lowry Crossing, which is outside of Dallas, and then War Trail and that's Broken Halo from War Trail. That is at Atlanta. So you're talking a 3.5 hour, maybe 4 hours distance and stuff. And then you got Bluffton, South Carolina. You got Somerset, Pennsylvania, and then you got some Kentucky, Indiana, and I think Tennessee in this bottle right here. So I'll say cheers. We're going to taste this joker.
Cheers.
I get peanut butter on that right there. Peanutty.
I'm I get caramel as soon as it hits my tongue. I
Really?
get caramel. This one's dangerous. This one's dangerous.
I think you're going to say that a lot tonight.
This one's good. Wow.
You know why I'm sipping on this and enjoying it? The other person besides Miss Viv, that's been there for me thick and thin through 2025 is Kinsey Gray. And that's Mitch's daughter. Well, I don't have a nickname for her, just Kinsey. But Kinsey, we actually sat on this farm last year at Christmas. And Kinsey is the one that pushed me to start YouTube and start putting videos out. And she was like, Uncle Mike, people want to see you. People want to know you more about you. And she was like, they will know more about you if you can do a video. So I got to say thank you so much, Kinsey, for putting in so much work. And, you know, I think you're so talented. And I wish more people out there that that knew your work and stuff, and I think you're going to go so far in the future. If you look up Kinsey Gray on Instagram and check out her work, she's an amazing graphic artist, and she could really help you out with your marketing. I can't say enough great things about her, but she's did every one of my videos. You'll notice that they're getting better and better and better. And maybe this year, 2026, I'll add some stuff. But Kinsey, thank you so much. That was my big thank you for this year. So you got some questions for me. Hit me with your best shot, Little Feather.
So before we hit him with the best shot, a lot of people can't throw any punches on Big Chief, but being his little brother, I can throw a couple punches. So some of you will notice that haircut of his. He looks like it actually stood about 4 foot above his head. He was in the Mohawk tribe, and he cut it off before this video. But anyway, I think for the year, when you think about 2025, what moment hits first? What is that big moment?
I think putting videos out and like putting them together and seeing all that magic come together and being scared to put a video out, and because it brings more critics, but it's also brought more listeners and more viewers, and it's taken me into a whole nother realm of possibilities. It's opened up a lot of doors, and I think it's whenever I tell people, hey, I do audio and video now. Before it was just a podcast.
Yeah.
It was just, but now I'm on YouTube and I'm building that audience. I'm a long format. It's not short format. So it's a 1 hour show. Some people have said, hey, do that. But that was that aha moment of figuring it out, what camera worked best for me to film with and stuff. And I'm straight on with one camera. I don't know if I could do 2 or 3 cameras, and maybe I'll do that in 2026 or 2027. But that was really that aha moment of like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this. And Kenzie just like blew my mind. I was like, hey, I want to do this or I want to do that. We got to come up with a nickname for her. Maybe we'll call her Silver Arrow. That's almost like a little superhero.
Yeah.
Silver Arrow.
Actually, I think you mentioned her name as Silver Arrow in a couple of your episodes when we worked in Land Passes.
Yeah, I think I did. Silver Arrow.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that 2024 did not have videos. 2025 was that next leap ahead for you then, right?
I think I did 1 or 2, and I was trying to do it by myself. And I'm like you. I will use every minute, every second in a day. If I think I can do something else, I'm going to do it. And we're just geared that way. We're geared totally different than a lot of people. But I did a couple of videos. I didn't really like them, and I stopped. I was like, you know what? This is trash. I'm just not doing them right. I couldn't get the video right. I couldn't do the editing. My brain I got a lot to do between a real job, what I do for a living, and then the podcast, and then having my farm, Bayou Sunset Farm, and being married, and make sure I devote enough time to my wife and to that relationship. And then also having my father-in-law pass away and moving my mother-in-law, there's just a lot of moving parts. And then I got a dog that he can consume a lot of time too. People don't realize that, but he's his own person. But I think that 2025 is really, the videos have it's opened up stuff for me, and I've learned so much to look at the camera sometimes and talk to listeners, to how to swing back to my guest and make sure I'm focusing on my guests and stuff. There's a lot of extra moving parts with that, and then adding extra gear and learning that gear has been somewhat difficult. And how do you make all that mingle and stuff? Because my audio comes from my mics and our audio recorder, and then I had mics for my camera, and I still do, but I don't use them a whole lot. I'll use them if I'm just using the camera and I'm out in public sometimes. But yeah, that video in 2025 has really been it.
Okay. So having said that, I'm just going to kind of get on the coattails of that question is, did this year meet your expectations, or did it change them? Did it change them at all? Or?
I think it did. I mean, it didn't meet my expectations. I always gear myself to want to go for the gusto, right? Go for that kill. And could I have did more in 2025? I don't know that I could have. In some aspects, I probably failed in 2025, and I missed the mark on where I should have been. But I set goals for myself. Me and Kenzie talked about that.
Yeah.
What goals do I want for for the videos? Where do I want to go? She's like, hey, what do we want to get out of this? And we set goals, and we met those goals. And growing my community, growing the podcast, growing it as a brand is really met my expectations. The coin was something that I've talked to you about. Man, I want to do a coin. I want to do a coin. I want to do a coin. Some people told me no, that they were like, that's dumb. But I don't think it is, because it's part of our being as veterans to have our coin and our challenge coin. And I will say, when I first saw the coin, like physically opened the box from Guardian Coins and held the first one, I was amazed by it. And you didn't really get to hold it or have one until I got here. So you've seen it.
If you haven't seen this coin, yeah, great. It's a picture or whatever. Once you put it in your hand, there's some of you that may collect coins out there, and some of you that get this one and collect it. It's one of those coins that you get and you want to put in your safe, because if somebody sees it on your wall or your thing, it might disappear. I'm just saying, it's one of those unique coins that you'll never want to part with. You'll want to hang on to that thing, regardless of what the number is. I know not everybody can be number 2, but anyway, it's an amazing. It's unique in its own way. We went to and visited another distillery last week, and someone was coined there, and I was kind of protective of that coin too. I was like, I sure hope that she puts this up in a safe spot, and I know that you won't throw this in a dusty box. You'll put it up somewhere. It's very, very unique, and I certainly encourage you to get online and check them out. I know that they're one of those things that he can be very, very proud of, and the gentleman that helped him create and design that coin is something that he can be very, very proud of and post on his site.
Well, we're going to go ahead, and I've sipped on this quite a bit. I think I know my thoughts on it. I'm going to save those to the end, but we're going to dump everything into this one mason jar, and at the end we're going to try this blend. Go ahead, Mitch.
So while we're doing that, one of the things that, if you could tell me, I like to get three things that 2025 taught you, what would those be in regards to the show?
Oh, man. 3 things the show taught me. That you're never too old to learn something new, right? Video editing has been, it has been challenging. And then to make sure it all flows together. So that'd be number one is you're never too old to learn something. number two, man, what else has it really taught me? It's hard to say as a podcaster that be ready to adapt, I guess. I've always been that, like a chameleon. I'm ready to adapt at all situations. But this year, guests canceling last minute, and I'm about to record a show with them, and they're like, I got to cancel. And I got to think up something else and be creative, like on the spot. How do I come up with shows? And can I change that in 2025? I don't think I was great at that, but, coming up with content is for 52 weeks straight and not just be 52 different distilleries. It can be very, very difficult to think up a show and to talk for an hour. I think people think it's easy to talk for an hour, but it's really not. I can burn through a podcast episode with, if it's a distillery that I just like, this ain't hitting the mark, I could burn through that episode very easy and be done with it in 15 minutes. I've burnt through all my questions. I've asked unless they have enough whiskey for me. If it's just two expressions, I'm ready to be done. And I think the third thing is the show must go on. And I've seen other social media people out there, they kind of fall off because they didn't keep creating. They didn't be creative. They lost that luster. And I've recorded shows sick. I've recorded shows where I'm stressed, or I didn't have enough time. Hell, the other day, we had some technical difficulties with internet, right? You live out in the country like I do, and the internet's always not the best, which is a whole different topic. I could do a whole show on internet for rural communities, but adapting to that and trying to overcome that, those challenges of recording podcasts 52 straight weeks was difficult. Did I hit the mark every time? I didn't. I've told you that before. There's filler episodes, right?
Yeah,
and that's not to bash a guest or to say that guest wasn't great. I can't have a number one show every week. It just, I'm not Joe Rogan. That's not what I do for a living. It's a business, it's a brand, but at the same time, it's a hobby. And I can't let this run my life. I do that a lot. I let it run my life because I'm like, if I didn't do the podcast, I think I could do so many other things in my life.
We were talking about that, and Big Chief brought up he might start crocheting, but that might be in a different time.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good idea what the future holds for us, but you brought up a good point. Is the show must go on. I officiate high school football, and my next step in 2026 is to move on to that NCAA level, and eventually, I try to keep myself in the NFL shape. And I say, what is it that I need to do next year for that next step? How do I take that next step? It might be listening better, reading the rules and understanding the rules. And now I go through NFHS to NCAA rules and try to understand the difference between those. But what is that? And enough about me, but what is that next step for you that says, this is what I'm going to do better, or I'm going to focus on in 2026?
I think you got to set goals. Every year you should set goals. Like you set goals to say, you know what, I'm going to try my hat at NCAA. We sat down talking about it. And this week, I've been here. We're going to almost be here for 2 weeks in Georgia. And we've set a lot of time inside a deer stand together and laughing laughing until we cry sometimes. But, he told me, he's like, man, I'm going to really go for the gusto this year, and I'm going to try this. And then you told me how many years you would have to do that to reach the next goal, right? Yep. But for the whiskey trip, my goals for setting goals this year is really what I want to do. I want to make sure that I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's very important to me and Mackenzie because that gets her out there, gets her more recognition. As far as distilleries go, that I've been into the largest distilleries in the world. I would like to get more international guests on this year. That would really be something I'd like to see, is more Irish whiskey, more Scotch, more Indian whiskey, and I've got plans for that. How I accomplish those, that's a difficult thing and stuff, and there is actually some politics into that because of tariffs and how even I spell the whiskey trip. Whiskey is, for Scottish people, it's spelt with just a Y, not an EY. So, but that would be my goals for this next year, and maybe even do some international travel. Maybe end up in Scotland or Ireland and do a whiskey trip over there, and let them see what a big old warrior is all about, and let them hear this deep voice in whiskey.
So do you wear the kilt and grow out the mohawk, or?
I think a little bit of both. They wouldn't know what to do, because I do have some Scottish heritage in my blood, and I think that's probably where I get most of my size from is from the Scottish background or ancestry. Yeah. Well, let's try this number 2 out. I almost think I know which one this is. Number 2, I think it's a rye.
It's kind of, it has a flowery hint as I smell it. It's a lot sweeter and smoother.
That's a good whiskey right there. And I don't think I'm going to say any of these whiskeys are bad, because I picked these out as my whiskeys of the year, and I really wanted to showcase on this stuff. And I've had these guests on that just, man, what a year it's been. I think of going to 1845 and getting to talk to Miguel and to Bob, the owner, and they have a German still there, and they're in a pecan orchard, so it kind of tied everything for Texas together, right? German heritage is a big thing in the state of Texas. In a pecan orchard, we grew up in a kind of a pecan orchard, so we know that lifestyle. And then going out to Llano, that's not too far from our hometown. I actually stopped in San Saba, where we used to pick pecans, and put them in a burlap sack, and then we would take old feed sacks, and then we would take them over to San Saba, these 50, 75 pound bag of native pecans, and it goes over to San Saba and sell them by the pound. That's taking a trip down memory lane, kind of how the whiskey trip was born, but what a year. Some great damn guests I've had.
I mean, thinking about those pecans, when the pecans fall from the tree, they have this green shell on them, and I remember going to school and our hands were black. And we were poor kids. We didn't know any better, how to get that stuff off. It just finally faded off of our hands. But, those were some tough times. But kind of like the whiskey trip, that shell peeled back. But some of that shell remains. Before I ask you this next question I got, I wanted to you to look back at some of those things that you may have brought from your childhood, other than some of the notes and stuff that you bring to this show.
Things from home.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. A lot of people don't know that we had a very tough childhood, from the time we were babies until we grew up and left high school, right? Where even in high school, we had teachers, we had other parents. Don't hang out with these two. Don't communicate with them. A teacher telling you, you'll never get a college degree. Telling me you'll never make it. I don't want my son being around you. What I bring from home, I guess, just that hard work and ethic and that drive to never give up, to never let anything, you're going to get knocked down in life. And we both been knocked down several times, right? And there's always somebody tougher out there. There's going to always be somebody tougher. But at the same time, do you keep getting back up and keep going? We watched a movie this other night about this Finland soldier. Finnish? Is that Finnish? I don't know if that's right or not. That don't sound right.
He was a soldier from Finland, so I would say he's Finnish.
He was like the Finnish Rambo from World War II, and
the guy wouldn't die.
But that's what the Sisu.
Sisu.
It's kind of the white knuckles where you just grip it, and I've used this poem, this Harriet Beecher Stowe poem, like most of my life, from being in the military. And it says, just when you think you can't hold on a second longer, and the tide is going against you, never give up, for that is the time that the tide will change. And that means that, that's that same moniker as that Finnish soldier, is you just keep getting up and keep going and keep letting it drive you. And I think in high school, we had to do that. And when we were middle school, we were talking about scars, because we're looking at our hands and we're like, man, our hands are all scarred up. And, I was attacked by a dog when I was a little kid, and my whole head is scarred up. As I've gotten older, my head's gotten the size of a pumpkin. My scars used to cover my whole face. And, you talk about having thick skin in school and kids calling you Scarface, or, you're all scarred up, you're ugly. That will teach you something. That'll teach you how to be tough, whether you like it or not. Life is not fair. So, I bring that to this podcast. I don't let a marketer say your show's not big enough. We don't like your style. I'm a bull in a china shop. I'm going to kick your door down to your distillery, and I'm going to come in there, and I'm going to tell your story. I'm going to do it the best of my ability. And by the end of the day, I'll guarantee you, your team is going to like me. The marketing people might not like me, but the distiller, the owner, they're going to love me. And I think that's what I bring.
Yeah, that's good. Which trip or episode meant the most to you? I keep waiting for you to get Stone Cold Steve and Austin on your show, but which episode meant the most to you for this year?
God almighty. I think a lot of people would look back and say I did Woody Creek, and I had William Basie on there. He's from Shameless. He was from Wild Hogs. He's a movie star. He's a singer. And that was a great episode. But to me, my favorite guest, my favorite show of this year, we filmed in Lampasas, Texas together, and my favorite guest is you. Number one, because we're here today, but that episode too is I had something in my mind I wanted to do, and just hanging out with you. And we always say this to people, we only have 30 or 40 visits left with each other because of our age. I'm 52. Mitchell will be 51 this year, or next year, really, I guess. And we might not have a whole bunch of visits left, but we got to make the most of every visit. And to me, that's why that episode meant so much to me. And this episode means so much is because it's being recorded. It will go down in history. And those teachers, those parents that said these two guys will never make it, they'll never be nothing, we've proved you wrong. And you need to eat some fucking humble pie is what I'd like to say. Yeah. That's just me in a nutshell. I know that's not about whiskey, but it is about whiskey to me, because distillers are the same way, especially craft distillers. They can't let stuff get them down. They got to keep driving on, and they got to keep producing and get out there and win their neighborhood, win their market and stuff. So that's what it's all about. What do you like this whiskey right here?
I do, and when I taste this, it reminds me earlier, or actually a little bit later in the year, in November, we went to the Dallas Cowboys Chiefs game, and we offered all of the fans an opportunity to taste some of the great whiskeys of Texas. And people were coming by and they were shooting them like shots, and it hurt my feelings. And I think whenever I was younger and I first was introduced to whiskey by Big Chief, I would shoot it like a shot, and I'm like, and you'd get that immediate bite and it'd be over, and I'm like, I don't want any more, and you'd push it away. Well, I stopped a lot of those people that were coming by that were getting those, and I said, stop and take a sip and let it set on your tongue and marinate a little bit and let it feel that, the cavity of your mouth, and then swallow it slowly and wait for that taste on your tongue. Now, that first number one that we took a sip of, it was nice and sweet and smooth on the front of my tongue. This one right here, It is super, super sweet right in the center of my tongue. And it's one of those things that makes you want to pick it up and enjoy it and go, wow, I can't wait to take a sip of my whiskey. Not shoot it, but just take a sip of that whiskey and enjoy it. And this one again is very, very enjoyable. I really do like it.
Yeah, this has got some bubblegum notes to me. It's got a little bit of coconut. It is it's super sweet. I don't know that this is a rye though. I can't tell. I want to say it's a rye, but I'm not sure. But I really like it. It's very viscous. And I think every one of these are cask strength. Maybe not the one from Burnt Church. I think that's a 97 or 94 or something. But what a great whiskey.
Yeah, I've said before that I do not like ryes, but I think my taste is changing a little bit. So I guess I'll eat my shoe if this turns out to be a rye that I sipped here, because this one is very delicious as well. So while you're getting those ready, I appreciate that I'm your favorite. I knew I was your favorite. And I apologize to everybody else that Big Chief talked to this year. He does brag about every one of you. And there can only be one. All right. But anyway, what was your hardest show to pull off this year?
Ooh, man. Hardest show to pull off. It could have been that last show, is the Doc Brown show. But I don't know that was the hardest. I think my 400th episode, where we kind of celebrated 400 episodes, that might have been my hardest show to record, because I really had to go back and I really had to do my homework of 400 shows and think about that and think about the guest over 400 shows. And then I had 2 guests on that show, Emiliano from Steel Austin, the assistant distiller there, or I think that's his name, the head distiller now. And then Matt King, a good friend of mine, good head distiller. Both of them guys are amazing, and that's why I had them on my 400 show. Number one, Emiliano has listened to every show I've did, and has been a great supporter. So has Matt King, and I couldn't think of 2 guys that. And there were people who were like, I would like to be the 400th guest, and I'm like, that just doesn't seem right to me. Those 2 guys were the right guys, but that was probably the hardest show, besides the Doc Brown show, because of the technical difficulties. And I felt sick to my stomach, listeners, because I was a day off. But it ended up turning out great, because it got released on Christmas Eve, and everything works out in the end. I just had to take a breath, and I don't think people see what's behind the scenes, that I had to get up like at 4 o'clock in the morning and go drive to a public library and download the episodes to use their internet. It just wasn't working out to load that up even onto YouTube. That's when I had to get up in the morning and do it. And the night before, I felt like a little kid sitting in there in the library trying to download. But people don't see that back side of that, of the stress of it. But that 400th episode would be that episode that I was like, man, this was tough.
So was that one of those moments where you hit a wall and you're like, man, if I could just take a break from here, hit the reset button and start over, would I do it? Now, I'll give you guys a little background on this. Me and Big Chief have been getting up every morning, and we've been going every evening deer hunting, and the deer hiding from us because we got them on camera at night. But that morning after Doc Brown, he got up at 2 or 3 in the morning and went to the library to sit out there to get a better Wi-Fi than out here in Hickville, so that he could get that video or that episode loaded up. And then he came back and threw on his hunting gear, and we went out there and sat in the stand for a little bit. So it's very, very impressive, and that gives you a little insight of what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is. Some days I'm like, man, you got to have that creative juice, and I think we're built like that to have creative juice. I don't think I got one time told that I wasn't very artistic, but I would say you, our little sister, our older sister, are all very artistic people. Mm-hmm. Our brains are just wired and geared a different way. you got this old metal tank out there. As soon as I seen it, my brain like started lighting off, right? And I was like, man, we could make that into a water tower and build a tower for it and put it out there. And we put a big rooster on it, and put your farm here. We both got named our farms. Yeah, we're that way. Mine is Bayou Sunset Farm, and yours is Soggy Bottom.
Soggy Bottom.
And you got chickens, and now you got roosters out here. Some people say they're not roosters, but that's one of them's a rooster because that son of a bitch was crowing.
Yeah, I have 3 now, and I'm pretty sure that before long my girls won't be pure anymore. It kills me.
Well, let's nose this third whiskey before this second half ends or first half ends.
Honey.
Honey chocolate.
I smell a little honey in there.
Man, that's a good whiskey right there. Whew. I really like that. That's very oaky. Got a lot of just caramel notes to it. I'm looking over there to figure out which one this is. That's spectacular.
So, as you sip that, have you ever been in a show and you were going through several whiskeys and you had one that you struggled through? You don't have to name that whiskey, but was there one where you were like, that one just didn't hit my palate right, and you were like, well, maybe it was just me, and you took that second sip and you're like, nope, that one didn't work?
I mean, I think I'm coming up on I'm around 450 episodes right now, and I've had several of those where you just had to fight through it, and it just didn't work with my palate. Not every whiskey's going to work with your palate. Now, if I really don't understand the whiskey, I call it having a session with the whiskey. I need to sit down with that bottle and I need to understand what's going on. What kind of still are they using? Where are they located at? What kind of barrel are they using? There's a lot that goes into whiskey. Even at the temperature you cook your whiskey, your fermentation, right? How you cook your whiskey. Is it a column still? Is it a pot still? Is it a sweet mash, sour mash? I need to understand that whiskey and break it down almost to a chemical level to see why it doesn't fit my palate. And then I think I'll go back and say, what'd you eat today? What kind of water am I drinking? All that goes into it. Like tonight before dinner, I made probably one of your favorite meals I make, besides brisket or pulled pork. I make a smoked French dip, and if you haven't had one, I love to make it. It's a chuck roast. You smoke it for like 4 or 5 hours, and you put it in a Dutch oven, a big old cast iron pot, and you put it back in the smoker, but you put pepperoncini peppers in there. I had to come up here. I brushed my teeth. I chewed some chewing gum, got rid of that, got myself prepared for this show. So, yeah, there's whiskeys out there that just don't hit me right. But I might go back to those and visit them and figure it out. Or that maybe it was just see if it wasn't that day. If it still doesn't fit my palate, I might go back in 6 months and see if something's not right with my body or something. Health-wise, you don't know what medications you're taking. And I take medications. Those medications could vary my taste for that day or something, or that month, or, this year. So, and as I get older and a little wiser in whiskey, my palate changes. And I've grown to appreciate different whiskeys throughout the world for what they are, where they're made or distilled, or where they're aged. And I think that's one of the great things about the whiskey trip is I try to be very neutral on whiskey, and not every whiskey is going to be for you out there.
Yeah.
But if you don't try different whiskeys, you do not know what you're missing out there.
As you did that, and part of the reason why I asked that is because, as many folks know, Big Chief goes through distilleries and he gets to see some of the things that happen on the backside. He talks to those master distillers and stuff like that, and he's selfless. He'll go back in there and say, maybe it might be something that's happening here, and I want this guy to sell this bottle of whiskey or that bottle of whiskey what is it that I might be able to help? Have you found yourself giving some of that advice to some of the distilleries and folks that you talk to?
Yeah, sometimes it's not appreciated. You know, I get looked at and like, what do you know about distilling whiskey? It's that humble distiller that realizes, hey, this guy has did 450 episodes. I get to drink anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500 expressions of whiskey. I always say that, but then I start counting them up, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably where I'm at. And people are like, that's a lot of damn whiskey. I'm not drinking 1,500 bottles of whiskey. Don't think that. You know, I'm drinking 1,500 different pours of whiskey. So I do have a lot to offer, anywhere from the whiskey itself to the marketing. I see what works and what doesn't work, what's beautiful and what's not beautiful, what bottles work and what bottles don't work. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. The hustle part of it, you know, does my opinion differ from a lot of people's opinion? It sure damn does. You know, in-store bottle sales, right? Where a distiller will go into a store and they will do tastings. Most people that come into a liquor store, I mean, you went to a couple this week, right? And we might probably go into a couple more. Most people are walking out with vodka in their hand. Probably 90% of the time. I don't think that in-store liquor tastings are worth their weight in marketing money, because you're paying that person to sit in that store for half a day and try to push your hooch, and people are not going to walk out with it unless it's the owner of the distillery and people become a fan of them. War Trail, I know they go themselves to those, but you gotta hustle. You can't just put any BD up there people that just don't believe in your whiskey or your product, right? You got to have somebody that really believes in a good salesman. You've seen me sell some whiskey over the years.
Yeah.
I believe in whiskey products, and I can say I sold whiskey. The guy walked out the other day. Matter of fact, he walked out one of these bottles right here.
Same bottle. Yeah.
So, you know, and hopefully he loves it as much as I love this right here from Burnt Church. But he was like, what do you want to try? And he told me, he's like, I'm not a bourbon drinker. I'm a rye whiskey drinker. But he left out of there with that bottle. I think, you know, it is my podcast, and it is my, you know, podcasting is kind of my passion. So I want people to come on my podcast, but this will be forever for you, for your distillery. You know, people can go to it online and look at the video, and, you know, you Google a lot of distilleries, and the first thing that pops up on Google is my podcast. That's saying something right there. You know, somebody learns about you, they learn about you on my show, and then they think, man, if that guy likes it, because he has an open mind, maybe I'll like it. So,
yeah. You know, I liken that to my hobby again, officiating football, and I had a senior official tell me this. I'm kind of hard-headed, and I'm not willing to take on a little feedback. He said, Mitch, if you're willing to take that constructive criticism and apply it, you're going to grow and benefit from it. And I think some of those master distillers and folks, and even the shop owners, that you listen to it, you grew from that, or you learned from it. Whether you did your financials or you did something with your still that was different, you found that constructive criticism that he gave you, whether you liked it or not, was beneficial in the end. And if it wasn't, you give that feedback back to him. Hey, this worked and this didn't work. You know, some things work for us and some things don't work for us.
Yeah, I mean, proof in the pudding this week is, you know, I got some 2026 shows we're going to record here in a couple days, and those two shows, at first those folks said no to me, but I was persistent. I was like, hey, check me out first. You know, if you're a craft distillery and you're telling a podcaster no, you are throwing away marketing dollars. You're just chunking them away, because podcasters are going to come to you, and the most it's going to cost you is a bottle of whiskey or 2 bottles of whiskey. You're going to, you know, 4 or 5 glasses of whiskey with me, and then I'm going to ask you for a giveaway for my listeners out there. that's not that much money, because I know the true cost of what a bottle of whiskey costs you, and we're not talking about that much. But then you'll go and buy somebody that I need to buy social media stuff on ads on Facebook, or I need to put a person in a liquor store to do tastings. That's costing a lot more than this podcast cost you, right? People's time. So I'm trying to come to you and put entertainment out there for my listeners, my viewers on YouTube. So, yeah, what are you thinking about this whiskey right here?
To me, this one, although it smells sweet, it's not as sweet to the taste. Probably a little bit lower proof, in my opinion. I don't know. It's not as, you don't get that hot taste that you have on the front of your tongue or the back of your tongue, or that hug that you get in your chest. I think it feels like it's a lower proof whiskey. I'm falling away.
I don't know. This is a traditional bourbon for me right here. I like it. It's sweetness. It's got some oakiness to it. Not a bunch of proof on this though. I'm wondering which one it is now in my mind. And I'm excited to see. It's awesome drinking them blind though, because you don't know. You really don't know. And we got some bangers up here. That Burnt Church has some rice whiskey in it, so I think it does. I'm gonna have to look at the label in halftime. But we're up against the first half. This is gonna be a long show, folks. So stick with us. You don't want to miss this giveaway over here. Like I said, Guardian Coins, the coin. The Heritage Flag Company, that flag right there is amazing. The Bourbon Bullshitter T-shirt, the decanter from Distillery or Distillery Products. Jenny was nice enough to up there to hook us up with that. I think it's a very beautiful decanter. Like I said, the whiskey ain't in it. The bottle of 1845, the Silver Star Honey, you really like that. The Johnny Fever over there. A bottle of Smoke Wagon, Sam's Package Store hooked me up with that right there. And then I called my old sponsor up, old Kevin Holy from Seldom Seen Farm, and I said, man, can I get some of that bourbon aged maple syrup from you that Miss Viv don't like me to have? Don't tell her I've been using it, but this is one hell of a giveaway right here for our listener, and I'm going to tell you how you can win this little giveaway I got for the end of the year, and how the past winners for this entire year, how you're going to get a bonus for this. So stick with us. Me and old Little Feather will be right back. Leaper's Fork Distillery is an artisan distillery working to bring back the history and heritage of a small batch whiskey production to Williamson County. The distillery crafts premium spirits using local ingredients and limestone filtered water to create superior spirits with a signature taste. Yeah, I love their wheated bourbon. Leaper's Fork Distillery is characterized primarily as a low volume, low impact concept of production. They are excited and honored about bringing back a lost art and industry to a county that always puts its history and heritage at the forefront. Visit them today at leapersforkdistillery.com. The Whiskey Trip is proudly sponsored by Guardian Coins, a veteran, family-owned and operated company that understand what it truly means to honor service, story, and tradition. Guardian Coins just doesn't make the challenge coins. They craft symbols of pride, legacy, and camaraderie. From military units and first responders to distilleries, brands, and special events, every coin is designed with purpose and built to last. Here at the Whiskey Trip, our official Whiskey Trip Challenge coin was brought to life by Guardian Coins, and it represents exactly what this ride is all about. Craftsmanship, community, and sharing a great pour with amazing people. From custom artwork to flawless finishes, Guardian Coins works with you one-on-one to turn your vision into something tangible, something you can hold, collect, and pass down. So if you're looking to create a coin that tells your story, whether it's from your unit, your brand, or your next big milestone, trust the folks who know how much that story matters. Visit Guardian Coins on Facebook and tell them Big Chief from the Whiskey Trip sent you. Now pour something good and let's get back to the ride. All right, listeners, we're back for the second half. I got old Little Feather over here with me, and we're going to name this, we're going to name our whiskey of the year, my whiskey of the year. Little Feather's going to tell you his pick, but this is definitely one of my it's going to be my favorite whiskey of the year. And my distillery of the year, I'm going to go ahead and announce that right now. Miss Viv and I went up to Fort Worth, Mitch, and we went to Trinity River Distilling, and I got shown around there by their master distiller and one of their owners, Tom, and I was blown away by this distillery. And they are they got this thing called the Whiskey Kitchen. They were very gracious with their giveaways, but the distillery itself, I was just like, it's in the old ranch style beans factory, and I was just amazed by it and the history behind it and what they're doing there and the money they're putting behind it. So to me, it being in Fort Worth near the stockyards, and it is definitely worth going to, and that's going to be my distillery of the year. Tom, I'm gonna send you a challenge coin, and thank you for your hospitality while Miss Viv and I were up there. You fed us barbecue, and let me drink some great whiskeys. I think you guys are going to shock people in the future. With your big old whiskey kitchen, they're still up there. It's just beautiful. I tried to get you to go in there and check them out.
I went in there. I went in the building.
But you didn't get to see the stills and stuff.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It'll blow your mind. They got a bourbon nursery in there where their barrels age. That's what they call it, bourbon nursery. Let it grow up, get old, and I think it's going to blow your mind, this place. And I think it is something to compete with in the state of Texas. I think people out there bang on Texas whiskey and they bang on Colorado whiskey lately. And I've seen people do that. And I don't think they drink everything from the state of Texas or from Colorado, and they're just speaking from other people's opinions. So be careful what you say out there if you're a social media person. It come back to bite you in the ass. I know personally stuff has come back to bit me in the ass, and I've probably said the wrong thing, but that's just how I feel. So this whiskey right here is number 4 for us.
This
Beautiful chocolatey nose on this, huh?
Yeah. I think if some of the ladies out there that listen, if you put a little bit of this behind your ear, you're going to get a whiskey lover attracted to you. It smells really good. It smells like a woman. It does. It smells good. Has a beautiful smell. So lots of beautiful notes.
The nose, the palate on this.
This one's a little hotter too.
She's hot, right? She's got some pepper to her, but this has got some oak to it. This has got some caramel, a little bit of pecan pie with some spice.
I'm gonna say, and I guess this kind of goes into it, is the no-bake cookies. You kind of get that taste the aftertaste of a no-bake cookie in your mouth. The chocolate, the oats,
A little bit of peanutty there with that peanut butter in your no-bake cookie. This is a good whiskey right here. What was this, number 4 for us?
Yep.
Little Feather had asked me, what happens if the blend, the pour here, is better than all of them? I said, well, it can't be the whiskey of the year. I guess it could be, but we'll see. Yeah.
Okay. Kind of getting back to some of the questions, I was pretty intrigued by some of your responses here, and I think some of the listeners are as well. But what guest besides me surprised you the most?
Ooh, what guest surprised me the most?
This year.
This year, yeah. That is tough. I'm thinking back through guests. I had some great, like I said, a William Macy on. I had Black Frost from Minnesota on. Alex Castle from Augusta. Man, I'm thinking back on those guests.
Or perhaps their whiskey IQ. You're like, wow, this guy or gal knows their stuff. above all others?
I think one of the guests that really was very humble, and his nervousness shocked me a lot, was Dylan from Keeper Saw or Jimmy's Bourbon up in Tyler, Texas. But his want to learn and his grasp of knowledge and how he took it all in, and he was like, "Hey, Big Chief, you make me nervous." He was like, "Your wealth of knowledge." He was like, "But I'm a sponge and I want to learn from you." That was a guest that it took me back, because he was very, very humble for the position he's in. So that was very it was very humbling to watch him throughout that episode, and just how he took the episode in and listened to me and stuff. And then, in that episode, they pulled out a 10-year-old Texas whiskey that just blew my mind. I think that's the best whiskey to that date that I'd had from the state of Texas. It was stuck back in a wine cellar, and maybe that's why it's just so good, and it's beautiful. Other guests out there, I'm thinking that just blew my mind. Me and you got to go into the distillery of Modern Art together, and we got to drink some corn whiskey in there, and it was really, really good. And Matt was his knowledge of distilling, I was very impressed with. He very humble, because he had failed at doing this before, and he admitted that, and he was like, "I'd made mistakes." And to me, that is that's very passionate from him to open up to me and let me tell his story. I had another guest this year, and I'm not going to say who the guest is, but I hated that episode. I thought the person was very, and it really didn't come through in that episode, but the person was very cocky and condescending, and no, not Mitch. Just didn't want to be there in the room with me, and I was like, I couldn't leave that place fast enough. I couldn't get in my truck and say, "You know what, I made a mistake coming here." That's how I feel. I mean, because this is my show. When I come see you, this is my show, and I don't need to be told how to run my show, or how I should set stuff up, or how I should even drink whiskey.
Yeah.
And to treat me like I had no knowledge or something. I've been treated like that before. We both have, and I don't like it. And I'll let you know real fast.
So if we go back to the gentleman that didn't know a whole lot about whiskey, and you intimidated him a little bit, he was sitting there soaking that in. I think anybody that's done that, and you realize the other person is listening and learning from you, that kind of warms your heart a little bit and makes you feel good. But I think when you talk about the distillery of Modern Art, is that the one that really challenged how you think about whiskey? Is there somebody else that did that?
How I think about whiskey, who really challenged my mind this year? Man, I think back to it. I've had some great episodes this year, and I don't know that anybody really challenged me. I've been sent some great whiskey this year, and I think back on episodes and challenging me. I think that, and I can't remember if it was in this year or it was 2024, but one that really challenged my mind. I don't know that I had that this year. I think maybe Black Frost, how they are doing their whiskey up there in Minnesota, is that might have challenged me a little bit there, of how they're taking, maybe a bourbon and a rye and blending those together, and that's calling that a whiskey is that really challenged me. I guess that would be the one right there that I'm like, that's pretty something different. I love when they're not trying to make Kentucky bourbon, right? They're not trying to make Pennsylvania rye. What they're trying to make is their whiskey. And I think in Distillery Modern Arts, that's what Matt is trying to do, is make his whiskey. He's not trying to make other people's. I love when somebody does a different mash bill that just really surprises me. Burnt Church. There's a reason this 6-grain whiskey is in my whiskey of the year. It really surprised me. Somebody that's a beautiful distillery. I've been there. I love that place. I'm not going to drop a bunch of names here, but Chris Crow, their president, is a man of his word. And they did not disappoint. Now, the only thing that disappointed me on that episode was that I didn't get to go there in person, because I feel like I can do such a better job in person than I can in a Zoom meeting or a video conference. And I think when people get to meet me and they feel that energy, when somebody meets you, they feel your energy, right? Because we're just geared that way. We're positive. Now, I'm not saying we can't be negative. You probably, on this show right here, you got the 2 biggest assholes in the world if we need to be. You disagree?
No, I don't disagree.
I mean, you're gonna know right away if you strike a nerve with us, and we're gonna tell you. But I think I was challenged this year by several things. I think some of the challenges in whiskey is keeping an open mind, and I think that's great. What I do good is I keep an open mind to everything, and that way it doesn't challenge my palate and stuff. One of the things that I've had a better appreciation for this year is finished whiskeys. And I'll be able to appreciate those and understand where they need to hit the market. Where, I'm a whiskey nerd. Straight up. I like high proof whiskey. I think it's sweeter. I think it's more viscous to the palate. I don't like 80 proof whiskey, but I got to keep an open mind to it. But I think, like women, I think women love higher proof whiskey. People need to not look at that proof and say, okay, the proof doesn't matter. If they could drink this right here, and this is some high proof stuff right here, this is a badass whiskey.
It is good. Very delicious. Let's go back a little bit. I want to tie this in. We're talking about people, and if somebody could go, they said if you could go, what do you miss most about the military? Most people will say it's the people, and some of the experiences and stuff. But I remember as a young private going into the first sergeant's office, that senior enlisted guy's office, and being scared to death, or that commanding officer's office, and being scared to death, or getting to meet a general and almost like scared. And after I got to meet that person, I was like, you know what? This person puts his pants on, or she puts her pants on the same way that I do. And I often wonder about that whenever you have a new person that you have a guest on. How do you feel whenever they sit down? What is your anticipation of how it's going to go, and what is the result?
The anticipation of having a new guest on that I've never talked to before. I think number one, the anticipation for me is me doing homework for my podcast, right? Because I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to go, and luckily we have modern technology. We have ChatGPT. We have AI that helps me think of questions, that helps me dig and figure out information, reading other people's articles, watching other people's podcasts or shows on a guest, and understanding that guest, is trying to do as much as I can to make that a good episode. That's that anticipation. If I go in dry and you just don't give anything, it's not going to be a good episode. And so you're not going to find me. And people give me that compliment. They're like, man, you really knew how to. People watch me do an interview. You've watched me do several interviews. I do not go in there dry. I know a lot about that subject. And if I don't know about it, I'm going to find out.
I think what people may understand, though, is what you do as an art. So if I'm sitting here and you're talking to me and I'm just coming out dry, what is your method to get me to kind of break me free a little bit and like, hey, this guy just needs to loosen up and relax?
Yeah, I think just talking to you like a normal person, and in the half, if I feel like it's gone down the wrong way, is to try to calm you down and, read mannerisms and stuff. And we've known that from interview techniques that I've had from the military, from law enforcement, to, just watching a person's mannerism and stuff. And you got to have a break the ice and let them know that, maybe make a joke or something, and that you're just full of humor and stuff. It doesn't have to be serious and stuff to get your point across and get them to smile a little bit. And, I think a lot of episodes you'll watch me just pull down that curtain little bit by little bit and pull that story out. I think there's a magic to that, artistry, and trying to figure out how do you get that person open up to you. Some people, it's spending time with them before the episode, right?
Yeah.
Walking around with them, letting them tell you their story, asking questions, because that's prepping me, right?
Yeah.
For that episode, the stuff that I really want to hear. I think Paige and Amy from Doc Brown's, we got to walk around with Amy, but we didn't do that with Paige.
Yeah.
She had showed up late and she was working, but I felt the chemistry with her right away. But I did some research on her. I knew she was a farm girl. We had that in common.
Loved it.
And I felt that passion for her and from her. Even after the episode, they went down there and showed us their tractors.
That's awesome.
People didn't here's all of our John Deeres, and there's another tractor up there. Here's our old 69 F-250 camper special. Yep. And we talked about, they started the truck up for us, and we talked about bees and bats, and we talked about encroaching urban areas, housing developments to farmers, and that's how you break down that wall. Some people, you just can't do it. I had an episode with Rob Samuels from Maker's Mark, and he's, if you could pick Rob Samuels up, you would find Rob Samuels at the Kentucky Visitor Center as one of those pamphlets, because that's how he came off. Right? I wasn't going to get anything besides the sales pitch from Maker's Mark, and it's all right. You're not gonna. Yeah. Not everybody's gonna open up to you, but I think over time I've become a master of that storytelling and breaking down somebody's their nervousness. And Dylan from Keepersaw, he opened up to me, and he felt. I think by the end of the episode, he felt a little more comfortable with me. At the half, nobody else could see this, but I could see his neck turning red and that fear just rising up. And I just said at halftime, I was like, man, I'm just a regular dude that drinks whiskey and likes to bullshit and sits down with you. And you would be able to tell people more than anybody, I do not take myself serious. I laugh at myself and make crack jokes, and I don't give a shit what people think. I just don't care. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you shouldn't be laughing at others. And some people can't take that, but, and you told friends, hey, you might not want to, I don't want to pick that fight, if you want to cut up, I'll cut up with you. And my verbal judo is better than yours. I think both of us are like master Jedis when it comes to that. I think breaking somebody's vulnerabilities down and making them feel comfortable with you and let them know who you are.
Yeah.
I think that opens people up and lets them tell their story. When I tell people, one of the first things I say at a distillery is, I didn't come to take your whiskey, because I get offered a lot of bottles of whiskey. But I always say, I didn't come to get your whiskey. I come to steal your story. And I really mean that. I've said over and over and over, no, I don't have his voice. You can mimic his voice very well, but I'm probably the better storyteller when it comes to it. But I want to be the Paul Harvey of whiskey. Paul Harvey was an amazing storyteller, and he had a way of telling a story. And I think every distillery has a story, some way, some shape, some form.
So what about a little bit different here? You're going into it, and you're about to talk to Frank the Tank, William Macy. How was that before you spoke to him, and then after you got going, talking to him? And I say that because we all know Frank the Tank, if you've watched Shameless. But William H. Macy, very, very respected actor. How did you go about that? Like, oh gosh, how's this going to go? You prepping yourself.
I don't think that, number one, I did homework on him and knew about him and how he got to Woody Creek and to that area and how the story broke down and stuff. And we had a bunch of conversations back and forth and emails and text messages and stuff. And number one, not to get starstruck. I don't. You can put your britches on just the way I am. That's just that, right? I'm a common man with a common plan, right? My dog does have pedigree, for sure.
You gotta love John Conley.
But I think in the Will Macy episode was doing my homework and making sure I was prepped for it and understanding his love for whiskey and watching different videos they did. And I think that was important to it. But also breaking him down and letting him know that he could just be himself. I mean, shit, he pulled out a ukulele and sang a song. I mean, to me, that was pretty epic. Well, we're on the fifth pour, Mitch. That number 4, whoo, no daddy.
So while you're kind of closing that one up, how did your interviewing style change this year? What did you change about it? What is, like, you tightened up your game from 2024 to 2025. What did you change? How did you change that style?
Well, like I said before, now that I'm doing video, I got to be more. Before you wouldn't see nothing. You would see the audio, you'd listen to the audio, and you wouldn't see me. I would always be on my phone, right? Because I'm like a Google master. And now that I have ChatGPT, I can use ChatGPT even faster. So you didn't see that because all you saw in 2024 was you didn't see nothing. You just saw the audio, right? You listen to the audio and you don't see all that. But now I have to make sure that I'm engaging because, I'm a multitasker. Would you say that?
Absolutely, yeah. You have to be.
And I can actively listen to a person, hear what they're saying, comprehend it, take it all in, and I could be thinking about my next 20 questions, right? And so I'm doing that. I'm trying to do the research. But what I learned is I can't do that in video so much because it gives that perception that I'm not paying attention to my guest, right? So I have to be that much more of a multitasker, and I have to preempt myself. So that's changed my interview style somewhat and stuff to be more engaging with a guest, and but that's helped me open up guests a little bit more too. So that would be the answer to that question. Is I've had to be more engaging and not be on my phone in the middle of an interview, looking up and thinking. One of the things, and you know this about me, and you're the same way, is if somebody tells us something, you better damn sure be you're right. Because if we think you're wrong, we're gonna find out. We're gonna be like, because you can see it rolling through my mind, right? That hey, I know somebody said something to me, and I could see the look on your face, like, well, I think that person's telling him something wrong, and his mind's probably thinking the same thing my mind's thinking. And we probably need to figure this out and see if that person's wrong or not. Because that's the first thing we're going to do is if we don't know something, we're going to learn it. I'm not going to learn anything about medical. I tell you that right now. I have no interest in it. I'm not that smart. I think you're the same way. You're like, I mean, that's why I work. I'm married a nurse.
Hey, when we were growing up, I mean, obviously, whenever you're a kid, you sit on the outside and you don't talk about things you don't know anything about. Well, that's a dangerous thing whenever you tell somebody to stay out of the conversation if you don't know what you're talking about. And first thing that both we're going to do is we're going to listen to the conversation. We're going to go study it. and we're going to get in that conversation, and we're going to break it down and go down rabbit holes. So just watch out whenever you're talking to Big Chief or myself, because we're going to go down rabbit holes, and if we don't know it, we're going to find out, and we're going to challenge you later. So he's absolutely right about that. So after we sip on this number 5 here, I did want to talk about the reason why we're here, and that's the whiskey that's sitting on these tables here. So I got a couple more questions, but I think it's time to try this whiskey here.
Ooh, she got a little. Talk about a honey nose.
This is another good-looking woman right here. Wow.
Ooh, that does not match the nose. It's good whiskey. I like it. It's nice sweetness on it. More corn forward. Maybe that kettle corn, that Cracker Jacks.
I may disagree with you on that one. It smelled kind of flour-esque, and it tasted a little flour-esque, like it had that sweet, maybe a sweet potato a little bit.
Is that because we just had sweet potato?
It may be, I mean, not a super sweet potato, but it has that taste to it, like it's a unique taste. This is a very unique.
With burnt marshmallows on there?
I don't know about the burnt marshmallows.
Vivian, she burnt some marshmallows the other night.
I ate them.
She put them suckers. I thought they were going to catch on fire.
You can't. If you've ever cooked the marshmallows, that's the first thing you want to do is pull that off, and it's charred, and you're like, that's great.
I don't know that hers. It didn't look good to me.
It looked like a volcano, but she's gonna beat you tonight. But
luckily, she's not going to see this for a couple of weeks. So,
as we talk about whiskey, do you ever come into doing a podcast or an interview, and you already come into it with a favorite? Because I can tell you, whenever you travel around, you've got this big old bag with you, and if I'm watching in the background, I've already tasted them all. I already have my favorite. But do you ever come into it with a favorite?
like this right here.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, you may have not tasted these or sampled some of these, but do you come into it with a favorite or what you think is going to be the best or whatever? And you don't have to say a name for those, but let's think of another show.
I think I have a favorite style whiskey, like wheated bourbon, Weller 107, high proof. I have a style of favorite whiskey, but what I've learned is as an expert, that'd be like you having a favorite football team as a referee.
No, we can't.
And you can't do that, right? So I have to keep that objective mind and stuff on this and know what each whiskey's all about. And there was a reason why I picked these 5 right here. There was some point in the year that I had them on my show, and I'm like, good God, this is good. And people always ask me, hey, Mike, Big Chief, what's your favorite whiskey? My favorite whiskey is the whiskey I'm going to find on down the trail that I'm going to find down the next whiskey trip. And I drink it, and I'm like, ooh, man, this is magical. So I don't go in preconceived with a favorite. And if I've had a whiskey before, I keep an open mind because your palate can change at any moment. And you need to think that. And that's just the way I am, I guess.
So you talked about the whiskey of the year. What separates a great pour from the whiskey of the year then? There can only be one.
I think a lot of people this year, in 2025, I watch guys do whiskeys of the year all the time. And usually I could almost pick their whiskey of the year for them when it comes out before they probably even tried it. Because I'm going to see some other people saying, oh, this is my whiskey of the year. It's June already, and they've already picked their whiskey of the year. What I could say is, hey, this is going to compete as one of my whiskeys of the year, or as my whiskey of the year. And I don't think that's right. I don't think just because you're the Jack Daniels out there or the Buffalo Trace that you automatically get to be the whiskey of the year, the Heaven Hills out there. You don't get to be the whiskey of the year just because 5 assholes out there or influencers, and they said, "Oh, this is the best whiskey" because you sent them a bottle. That's not right. Because those guys ain't trying anything else. They're trying stuff from 5 different distilleries. If they're only trying stuff from 5 different distilleries, what about all the other whiskeys out there that weren't tried this year?
Mm-hmm.
You know, does that mean I haven't tried Russell's 15, or did I try Jack Daniel's Heritage Toasted? Have I tried Steel Austin's Monster Mash? I can go on and on of these whiskeys that people are like, "Oh, this is my whiskey of the year." I get to try a lot of those different whiskeys from friends and people that stick whiskeys in my hand. But my whiskey of the year's got to be one I found on my trail that I drank and I enjoyed, and I'm blessed to have good friends and good family and people that want to share with me, and I'm very blessed. Before we go on, I'd be remiss without giving a shout out to a couple people that have helped me this year, and I want to give a special thanks to Kevin and Ken Hemingway out there, the Hemingway brothers, and I've told you about them this past week. I thank the world of these two guys. They're in the whiskey community for the right reasons, and they'll take their shirt off their back. Don't take your shirt off, guys, because God help you. No, you've really helped out the whiskey trip this year. You've grown my tribe, my warriors, and I really appreciate it. And I hope I've shown how grateful I am to you. And then Jared Porritt, what a fucking great guy. Another military veteran like ourselves, retired major from the Army, and I met him in November for the first time. I got to interact with him a little bit, but he and the Hemingway brothers have kind of joined forces with me, and I'm starting to do these barrel picks with them, and they're just funny fucking guys. They're funny guys that don't take themselves serious. They don't take me serious, which I like. I'm just a normal guy. They joke back and forth with me. I think they realize there's a grizzly bear hiding inside here. You decide which person you want. And I've said that to people. You decide whether you want the teddy bear or do you want the grizzly bear. Do you want an old nice big chief or do you want the asshole big chief? Which one do you want? And Jared and Ken and Kevin, they have shown it over and over and over. And then the guests that I have had on, I got to say thank you. The distilleries that have shared your whiskey with me, the fans, the listeners, the subscribers that have put in for these giveaways that I've given away. I can't say thank you enough. So I wanted to give that shout out there for this 2025, and I promise you 2026 is going to be a banger of a year, and I'm going to try to keep these giveaways going throughout 2026. It cost me to do this, these giveaways. So every purchase you make from the Whiskey Trip podcast, thewhiskeytrip.com, I really appreciate it.
Going back to the last question that I asked you in regards to the whiskey of the year, what does winning this title really mean?
I mean, I guess you get a coin from me, but I don't know. It just, I would be remiss if I'm a whiskey expert and not do a whiskey of the year and say, hey, this was the best thing I drank in 2025. I think I owe it to the distilleries that have shared a bottle with me to pick someone and to go back and say, hey, you made one hell of a product. You deserve that, and I think that's important. What do you get out of it? Can you say, hey, I was the Whiskey Trip's best podcast? You could say that. I was their Big Chief's best whiskey he had. That's something is anybody going to give a shit? My listeners will care. I want to tell you that. I believe that my listeners are very loyal to me.
They care what I say. I'm very protective of that, and I'm careful not to bash anybody. I told some backstory today, and thinking back on it, I probably shouldn't have, but I want you to see the backside of the story. But yeah, that's what you get. You get a handshake from Big Chief saying, "Hey, congratulations. Now get your ass back to work and sell some whiskey." Right?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
So if you, I know that there was a transition there from another podcast to this podcast. Let's say you get to those 5 whiskeys of the year. Do you find yourself doing that episode, the 550th that's an episode or whatever it is saying, I'm going to give you the number one of those past 5 years? Or have you thought about that far? Or you may look at them and go, these are pretty similar mash bills for all 5 years. And I guess I have one taste.
no, I don't think so. I don't think any of these would match previous years' mash bills. It just hasn't worked out like that. And in the past, on my past podcast, I had to agree with somebody else what our whiskey of the year was, right?
Yeah.
But now I only have to worry about what old Big Chief says. I did that for a reason. Me and you have talked about that. I don't have to worry about anybody else's opinion or thoughts or artistry or anything. And, I just feel that way. I could do this on my own. And I shouldn't have said that. I can't do it on my own because it takes a fucking army of folks to do this. It takes a tribe. It takes a bunch of warriors to get me through this, to motivate me to want to do another show. But I don't think I'll ever go back and say, how does that compare to that 5 years ago? It's just a time and a place and of a season that a whiskey tasted good to me, because my palate was different then than it is now. And am I more educated than I started out like 7 or 8 years ago? Definitely. I'm super dangerous right now. Going into a distillery, I can almost tell you every piece of a still. Can I run it? Give me a couple of days and I'll figure that shit out. Yeah. Especially with ChatGPT. I take a photo of it and be like, hey, what's this lever right here do?
Yeah.
I think you still have to stay humble, and you still have to understand and appreciate whiskey for what it is and stuff. Our last pour is going to be this blend right here.
Yeah. Going back into what it is, I think if you've been with Big Chief since he started on podcast up until this point, I think a lot of people would agree that he's earned his PhD in whiskology. I don't know if there's such a thing. But aside from the whiskey, what does the whiskey community mean to you?
Oh, man. It means friendship. It means people from all walks of life. When you leave the military, and I'm very lucky that did I leave the military? I did, but I still carry it with me today because I work for the military, right? I work for the U.S. Coast Guard, and I get that camaraderie still a little bit where I pull myself away a little bit and keep to myself a little bit more, but I still need that camaraderie, right? And I still need the people around me. And that's what the whiskey community is people from different walks of life, like the military, that come together for a common cause, and nothing else matters. There's no politics in it. There's no religion in it. There's no social issues. It's just the whiskey. And that's what I'm looking for. Because in the military, you look to your left and you're to right and see those soldiers, you see those Marines beside you, those Coasties beside you, and you're going for one cause, for one fight, one team. And I always say that. I listen to different podcasts and stuff, and I listen to all these special forces guys out there, and Marines and airmen and Coasties, and my job's better. I'm more badass than you are. My MOS matters more than your MOS. I'll fucking tell you this. You're all a bunch of fucking jackasses. And this has nothing to do with whiskey. This has to do with military, but it can go into the whiskey community. But all those people saying that shit, it takes every person in the military, whether you're a Marine, you're an airman, you're a coastie, you're a sailor, it takes everybody to defend this nation. Every person that raises their fucking hand and says, I swear to defend and uphold, that those people, it takes every person, every MOS, right? I wasn't a bullet catcher in the Army. Did I have a badass job in the Coast Guard? Yes, I did. I was a bosun mate, the best rate in the Coast Guard. But it took all those other rates to support that job, right? It takes every person. And in whiskey, it takes every person at the distillery. It takes people like myself promoting that whiskey. It takes everybody. Nobody's important than the other person. The distiller, the person that makes the label, the person that makes the glass, that, you know, it takes everybody to make whiskey great. And I think people need to remember that. You're not important to anybody else. So that's old Big Chief's take on that.
Well, I think when we're talking about the community, and I went from the military to the civilian side and the contractor side, working for a large aviation organization now, and the same thing applies. Is everybody has a job, and fortunately in this new organization, not everybody's climbing saying, yeah, you know, I've got the biggest title in here and I make the most money in here. We all fight for and work for the same goal, and I like that. But your listeners out there, that don't have a distillery or whatever, your feedback, customer feedback, it's all about the customer. What does the customer want? And that's part of the reason why we're here on this podcast, is for those customers. Like, how do we get that word to the customer that we've got this new distillery out here, and this thing should be yanked off the shelf and put in your house so that you can sip on it because it's that great. And I think there might be whiskeys here that don't get put on the shelf or may not be on this podcast because he may not feel that way. I don't know that, but it's all about customer feedback, because Big Chief is a customer as well. So you have a role as well. I have a role, and even Big Chief has a huge role in that, just as a customer, to give that feedback to those distilleries. Fortunately for Big Chief, like we said earlier in the podcast, in this episode, that he's going to give them some feedback and say, hey, I think this is what you could tweak and get better.
Yeah, so I mean,
so I've heard this term before, take the ride. Take the ride. I don't quite get your voice, but take the ride. What does take the ride mean at the end of 2025?
I think take the ride means get on board with the podcast, listen to the episodes, and go out there and find different whiskeys that you might enjoy. You know, you might learn something from a show and be like, damn, I didn't know that. But take the ride, you know, and enjoy life a little bit. Go to different distilleries out there. Go to Trinity River Distilling in Fort Worth. Go to Burnt Church in Bluffton, South Carolina. Take advantage of life, right? Don't let a second pass you by and be like, damn, I regret not doing that, right? I don't want to regret anything. Do I regret things in life? Hell yeah, everybody does. That's a human nature. But with whiskey, do we have to do that? Do you have to regret it? Or can you say, man, I got on the Texas Whiskey Trail and I went to Llano, Texas, and, you know, besides going to Enchanted Rock in Llano, you know, what else are you going to go there for besides deer hunting? Or go get some pecans? Well, there's a whiskey place there. So take that ride. Get on the whiskey trails out there, the Kentucky Whiskey Trail, the Bourbon Trail, the Tennessee Whiskey Trail. You know, Colorado's got a whiskey trail. Texas got a whiskey trail. Georgia, you know, Georgia does not have a whiskey trail, but there's a plethora of distilleries here in around the Appalachian Mountains and then down into Atlanta. You know, what would you come to Atlanta for besides SEC championship?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Atlanta to
There's
do.
a lot to do in Atlanta.
Right,
yeah.
we went to Stone Mountain the other day. It is just, I was like, thanks for taking me to see a giant rock. I appreciate that. But there's beauty in that, right? You get to get up there and experience it, and I enjoyed myself. Thanks for taking me to see that big ass fucking rock in the sky.
I think the best part about it was watching Big Chief nearly shit his pants whenever the gondola ride went back over the mountain, back down the side. He kind of went, whoa. but he took the ride. One final question for you. Actually, I'll hold it while we taste this here because we've been setting it and it's starting to evaporate in my glass.
I've been sipping on it.
Oh, yeah.
This is a pretty good blend. So I'm going to tell you that I have a bottle share at my house on January 9th, and it's going to be an epic bottle share. But I'm going to pour all these together into this right here, into this mason jar, and we're going to take this back to that bottle share, and everybody's going to get to experience this right here. That's some power in that glass.
That's hot.
hot.
That's a hot sip. So while you're sipping that, my final question, because I've talked a lot tonight and I love to talk. That's all we do in the Deer Blind in the mornings and the evenings. But what are you most grateful for heading into 2026?
I mean, and I'm grateful for every distillery that come on my show, and for the whiskey trip. I'm grateful that I get to bring new whiskeys to the whiskey enthusiasts out there. I'm grateful that I get to help craft distilleries tell their story. You know, I think without guys like me, without influencers, some of these distilleries wouldn't have a voice out there. They don't have the marketing budget. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have a healthy wife and that she supports me, that I have a beautiful niece that is very talented, that helps push me and says, hey, Uncle Mike, you know, that she wants to help me, and just she's very grateful that I want to help her back, you know. And I'm grateful that I have a brother that I can call any day. I don't think people really know this, but we probably, I'd say almost every day we talk. Yeah. Either by text or we make a phone call and hey, we've got different things going on in our life. And sometimes we rarely talk about whiskey. Mainly it's about just life and, you know, our farms and jobs and relationships.
Talking each other off a ledge sometimes.
Future dreams, right? That's what it's all about. So that's what I'm grateful for. Grateful that I got another year with my dog, and I'm not grateful that you let that fucker run in the mud today. Because he is a yellow lab, but he's almost pure white. Mud doesn't look good on Woodrow.
It doesn't look good on the bed between you and Vivian. If you don't know it, he's a big old baby, and he gets up there between them. So
he sleeps a lot. Well, let's go ahead and say which one of these five did you think was your favorite?
Number two was my number one.
Number two.
Don't know what it is, but I really enjoyed number two.
I'm gonna have to go with number four. I think number four was my that would be my whiskey of the year. Number four is. So what we're gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to raise these bottles up. I don't know but I'm gonna set those bottles in front of these. We'll have to spread them out here a little bit. And we're gonna start with this one right here. Number one. I hope these don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. I think this is going to be number 2. I knew it was.
Is it a rye?
Yep.
Gosh.
I was good on that one. Number 3. And that would leave 1845 out of Lowry Crossing, Texas. Bob and Miguel up there. Bob is the owner. Miguel, his son-in-law, is the master distiller. would be old Big Chief's whiskey of the year, the Whiskey Trips whiskey of the year. Congratulations, Bob and Miguel, and to the whole family up there in Mallory Crossing, Texas, for being my distillery or my whiskey of the year. The distillery of the year again is Trinity River Distilling. Now, I got this giveaway over here, Mitch. How are we going to give this so much away? That's a big ass giveaway. This is going to cost me right here, folks. But one winner is going to win this thing. You got a week from today when this goes out to put in for this. I'm going to put out several posts of it, several photos. What you're going to have to do, I want you to put a photo of an arrow and a feather emojis on Instagram. I want you to tag 4 people. And then the people I'd love for you to follow is the Heritage Flag Company, Guardian Coins, and Seldom Seen Farm. Those three sponsors right there, I think they did a great cause. If you want to follow one of the whiskey brands up there, I'd really appreciate that too. Burnt Church, Smoke Wagon, Trinity River Distilling, or Silver Star 1845. And also, one last thing is you got to follow distillery products too. I forgot to mention them, but so you got to post an emoji of an arrow and a feather for old
Silver arrow and little feather.
Little feather. And then you have to take and tag 4 friends, follow Guardian Coins, follow the Heritage Flag Company, follow Seldom Seen Farms, and follow Distillery Products. You got to do 4 follows. That is a lot, but this is a great giveaway. This is a big ass giveaway right here. Several $100s there of gear. The Bourbon Bullshitter T-shirt, a decanter, a coin, 2 glasses over mine. Those are from Distillery Products too. My glasses over there. Mitch is like, man, hey, I got to have some of these glasses. He's like, I know the guy. He broke one of these. Somebody broke one of these glasses the other day. But yeah, that's it. That's the giveaway. You got to be 21. You got to reside in the United States, as always. What a great show, Mitch.
Yeah.
Any last word to the listeners out there?
It's again what I said before is it's about your feedback. It's about you spreading the word to other folks because you'll find as you sit and you listen to a lot of these and you listen to older podcasts that these you're going to educate yourself on whiskey. You're going to learn a lot about whiskey. You're going to learn a lot about other aspects as well. You're going to learn a lot about life a little bit, and maybe it helps you become a better person or how to manage things. But I think Big Chief does a really good job with doing that and making people feel comfortable, learning how to read people and stuff, but also appreciating the whiskey that all of these folks have made throughout the United States, and appreciating that. I think that's a testament to itself, and the palate that I guess you have, that's a big thing. I think it makes me excited to see what you're going to do for 2026, and taking that next step and for lack of better terms, taking the ride.
Taking the ride. I just wanted to point out this is the 1845 distilling companies. This is I can't even say that. Permission. It's not permission.
Preemption.
Reverence. This is a 48 months out of Texas, 118.5 proof. This is their small batch cask strength right here. You want to make sure that you buy a bottle of that if you can get your hands on it. Reach out to the distiller at 1845. Miguel and Bob will make sure you're taken care of. I'd be proud to support that distillery there in Malvern Crossing. Give them a try. You won't be disappointed. Don't forget about the giveaway, folks. Now, Mitch, you don't have social media, but I got social media. So where can you find old Big Chief on social media? You can find me at the Whiskey Trip on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube now. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, as my niece always says. I'd be remiss to not ask you, and I'll get her to put it up on this side over here. Go support my friends over at Frontline Heroes Outdoors. They're doing great things for first responders and veterans like ourselves, taking them to the outdoors, taking their minds off the stresses of their jobs. I'd really appreciate that if you donate to them. She'll put that QR code up right here. But if you're listening to me, listen to Mark and Matt in 2026. They'll be putting out some new content. Mark has told me. We've had a long discussion about that, and I'm pretty excited about that Mark is going to go back to recording. So give them a listen. If you're listening to us and you like what you hear, make sure you leave us that 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Go ahead and leave us some comments. You can put those over on my Facebook page too if you want to. I'd really appreciate it. It gets great guests on my show. Gets great whiskey in my hand, like this bottle of 1845 right here. It is a rye bourbon, if I remember right. And I think, man, I'm really excited about it. It gets great guests on my show, about like a little feather over here when you give those comments. But I've really appreciated 2025. I want to say thank you so much for all the support that you've shown the podcast, that you've shown the whiskey trip, and that you've shown myself. It means the world to me. Keep supporting me in 2026. I'm going to keep giving back more than I take. This is old Big Chief, and thanks for taking this ride with me, baby.